All right, it's story time. These 2 pages were all about the rise of Julius Caesar, who had control of Rome at one time. So we read last week about how the Romans fought 3 wars against Carthage, known as the Punic Wars. The 2 great powers fought for control of strategic islands throughout the Mediterranean region. So they were fighting for these islands. Rome eventually destroyed Carthage and took control of its lands. After its success against Carthage, the Roman Republic continued to expand by conquering new lands. So they didn't just want those, they wanted more. These new lands were organized into provinces, which is another way to say state, and put under the control of local governors. During this time, Gaius Julius Caesar was born into a wealthy family. So these pages talk all about Caesar and how he became super popular. So he was very ambitious, which means he wanted a lot of things. He served in the Roman military and was a good soldier. He was a clever politician, so he was in politics, and a skilled writer and speaker. He formed a political alliance with Pompey the Great and Crassus, 2 other political leaders, and it became known as the Triumvirate. Together, these 3 leaders were able to influence and control much of the political life of Rome. So these 3 people joined together, and they had a lot of say in the government. The following year, Caesar was elected consul, which is one of the highest political offices in Rome. So with this tribe, he conquered the northern tribes and began a campaign to conquer all of Gaul and expand Roman territory. This military campaign lasted several years. So just what that's saying is they wanted to conquer more and more land. Military success in Gaul provided Caesar with increased political power. So he's even more powerful now. Money and popularity. Pompey, who was also very ambitious, saw Caesar's increasing power as a threat to his own. So he thought that he would become more powerful, Caesar would become more powerful than him, to his own quest for power, and began working to undermine him. Okay, so he wanted to get rid of Julius Caesar. Their alliance broke apart, and Caesar and Pompey became enemies. Pompey began to try to prevent Caesar from gaining more power. So he wants to stop Caesar from becoming more powerful. So the second page talks more about that. So under the influence of Pompey, who had powerful connections in Rome, the Senate commanded Caesar to give up command of his army and return to Rome alone. Caesar agreed only on the condition that Pompey would also give up command of his army. When the Senate refused Caesar's request, he ignored their order, and he led his army across the Rubicon River into Italy to fight Pompey and his army. So he didn't want to give up his army unless Pompey had to give up his. And when they disagreed with that, he went and he fought him. By ignoring the government's decision, he was seen as committing an act of war. So the government told him he had to give up his army, and he wouldn't do it. So he committed an act of war. Caesar pursued Pompey's army through Greece and Spain, where he defeated them. He then crossed the Adriatic Sea to face Pompey himself, and he triumphed. Pompey fled to Europe, where he was killed in September of that year. So Caesar won. With Pompey out of the way, Caesar continued his conquest by traveling to Egypt to claim it for Rome. So he still is on a power crunch. He wants more power. So even though he just destroyed Pompey, now he's going off to get Egypt to claim it as their own. Caesar's conquest of Egypt, so he did gain Egypt, further expanded the territory of Rome. So now they are on the opposite side of the Mediterranean Sea, and they have part of Africa. We learned about Egypt, so they're in that area, and increased his reputation. Because of this, he was declared dictator for life. So he doesn't just have to serve for 6 months, he gets to serve for life. And the thing about a dictator is they have all the power. Okay? That's why usually they don't serve a full term. So Caesar goes out there, conquers all this land, takes care of his enemy, okay? Destroys Pompey, and now he has total control of the government.